Hi and welcome to the Crafts channel. My name's Corinne Bradd and today I'd like to show you the intricate art of Parchment Lace. Now Tattered Lace have sent us in some lovely, they're Parchment Lace stencils, so they're metal. I'll just show you here. They're a nice sturdy metal grid and they've got pinprick marks in it for you to prick through. Now this is a great thing for parchment craft because years ago when I first saw it, it was one of those things that it was very intricate. You had to trace your design with a white ink pen onto vellum, which is this stuff, and then you had to laboriously go over the top with your pricking tool, and it was quite time consuming and really quite tricky. But the beauty of this system is because you've got these great grids like this one here, which is a wedding set. It's just made the whole process much quicker and completely foolproof. You can get a whole set of tools to work with your parchment craft. I'm just going to show you this handful here. And what you'll have to start with is, let me find the pricking tools. And they're all labelled quite neatly. So you've got a single pricking tool, which is just a needle point end really, and you can get them in pairs, so if you were doing like a long line of border you could do it quickly. You've got a triangle design here, so you've got 3 pin pricks in there, and then 4 and 5. Just for today I'm just going to use the single pin prick because these multiple points tend to be used for like sort of lacy backgrounds, if you've got gridwork design backgrounds where you cut bits out. But I'm not going to demonstrate that to you today because that's a little bit more advanced and I just want to show you the basics. You've then also got some embossing tools, and these are like your normal ball-ended tools that you would use for embossing, you know, blind embossing card or for using in a scoreboard. So I've got a 2 centimetre, a 1.5, 2 centimetre, that would be about that big, a 2 millimetre, a 1.5 millimetre, a 1 mil and a 0.5 mil. So I'm just going to use the 1 and the 1/2 today. You can get a mapping pen, and this is like the old style parchment craft where you would draw your design in white ink first of all and then prick over it. So this is simply a pen nib in a holder. But what's good about this is because all of the handles are quite ergonomic. You know, they're comfortable to grip, and when you're continually drawing or pricking or embossing, sometimes your hands will get tired. It's like those things, you know, when you were at school and you had to write a 300-word essay. By about 200 words, you just wanted to give up and throw it on the floor. Because these are quite chunky barrels on here, you don't have to grip them so hard, so your hands don't get tired. But I'm not going to use the mapping pen today, but what I am also going to use is this contrast tool, which is a peculiar hook on the end of a barrel. And what it's for just gently stroking over the parchment to make it whiter. But I'll show you that in practice in a second. So let's start with a simple pricked design. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make something like a rosebud, like I've done on this card here. So if you take your mat, now if you get these big stencils, they come with their own black pricking mat. Just position it how you're comfortable. Lay your grid on the top of it, and I tend to work, I don't lay my grid exactly on it, I tend to work so that I'm central, so I've got plenty of room to rest my hands on it. And you just want a little piece of vellum. I've chosen green vellum because then you can see the whiteness appear much better on film. And I'm just holding it down in place with a couple of bits of washi tape. And what I'm going to do is I will prick the outside of this first of all. So I'm not going to talk through this because this is going to get sped up. There you go, that's all pricked. That took me a lot longer than it would take you. because I didn't actually bother putting my reading glasses on. Then what you want to do is you want to outline, or not outline, you want to accentuate the fine lines on this. Now I'm going to use a 1mm ball-ended tool and simply press down in those grooves like this. Now you can't see this, but when I show you the end result, you'll see that this will come out as a white line against a green background. Now if you prick round a design, you can do it the other way actually. You can put this stencil on top of the green paper and prick through it. I find it easier to put the green paper on top of the stencil because you can see exactly where it is positioned on your piece of paper, and also if you miss the hole slightly, you've got less chance of blunting that tool because you've got a bit of paper there to protect it before you hit the steel. But when you come to emboss these lines, you have to put your vellum over the stencil because you will be pressing down like you would with any blind embossing. You'll be pressing down into the grooves, and this image, you're actually doing your image in reverse. So there's that. And then to do the rose itself, you'll need a bigger embossing tool. So I lied when I said I wasn't going to be using this one. This is the 2mm ball-ended tool. And you can just simply stroke it over. You don't actually have to worry too much about following the lines because the very nature of the tool will do all the work for you. And if you accidentally rub over it like that, nothing happens because it will only make the parchment go white when it's pushed down through these gaps. So if you run over the metal bit of it, it doesn't make any difference at all because you're not actually stretching the parchment and making it go white. And that's how it goes white, is just by very gently stretching it down. So you can see that this has gone white already. So when I take it from here, let's just save my pieces of washi tape. And when I take it away, and I'll show you on this black mat, you've got that lovely white raised effect. And then quite simply, the prick design, what you can do, and I really meant to bring a pair of small scissors with me. Let's just trim that a sec. You can use a pair of tiny scissors and just cut along. I say tiny scissors, you can see I'm using the most enormous scissors in the world. But in true Corinne fashion, I'm underprepared. If you just cut from prick mark to prick mark, you can cut out that image. And what you can do is it will make a design rather like this. The other thing as well, if you're really careful, is you can probably use these as a series of perforations if you want a more ragged effect. But that's one of the things I think you need to do that with practice, especially if you're using a big image, because if you're not really careful and you suddenly tear your parchment design across the middle of it, then you won't be happy. Be a lot of hours wasted. So what I wanted to show you was this contrast tool, because the other thing that I've done on here is I've used this nesting oval frame. Let's just pop that on there. This is really handy actually, this template. And I've done 2 lines, and what I've done is I've used this parchment tool to draw almost a border. I'm not going to do the whole frame, but I'm just going to do a section of it, and then I'll show you how it works. I'll use a bit of pink, and let's just again find my parchment pricking tool and the bits of tape, and I'll just show you on a corner here. So if you prick down, so that's the pricking done. And obviously if you were doing this for yourself, you would do the entire frame. But let me just take this off here. So you can't really see that because it's just pricked. But if you get your contrast tool, you can do it one of two ways. I mean, I tend to find that I work on the back of the work so that when you turn it forward, that prick design is raised up. You can do it one of two ways. You can either then use this tool, and this, I don't know how this works, but it works really well. If you run it along the line, like this, you can see it's starting to make that go white, but it's not a hard white line. It's not as if you were using the embossing stencil with you know, a hard outline like we did on the rose, but it's more of a gentle shading design, as it were. And you can press down as hard or as soft as you like with that. And what it does is it just, especially if you've got things like flower petals and stuff like that, and you want to have a you know, like a white petal going out to pink or something like that, you can use this tool, and because it's so gentle, you can apply as much or as little pressure as you need on it to make it just so that it's, you know, you've got that raised whiteness without it being too hard. I don't know how better to explain that. Raised whiteness is poor, but you get the drift of this. So the best thing to do with this parchment lace is to have a practice. You know, get yourself some vellum, get a couple of the tools. I mean, you can buy them in a set. If you check the description below, I'm sure there is a link to where you can get all the equipment, and just play around with it. Practice on some scraps of vellum first of all until you get a feel for it, and until you really, you know, until you get a feel for how much pressure you have to apply. But you don't have to apply much pressure at all, and it makes it really easy on your hands. And you can produce some brilliant cards. I mean, I didn't make this one, but if you look at the lace work on this card, all around the borders, and it's been carefully cut around the prick marks with a pair of scissors, so you've got almost like a broderie anglaise effect. So, you know, have a go at it. It's much, much easier than it ever was, you know, when I was first introduced to parchment craft. And I mean, you can make lovely, this delicate card for somebody's wedding. It's all you need. It's a very simple outline, and it's just in white and purple, but it makes a really effective card. So I hope that's inspired you to give it a go. It's certainly made me look at parchment craft in a different light now, because it is so much easier. And I hope you enjoyed it. We will catch up with you next time. Bye. If you've been inspired to create, please share your makes with us in the comments section below. And if you've enjoyed videos by the Crafts channel, hit the like button. Want to see more of us? Then click subscribe. See you next time.